Claire Chandler is a senator from Tasmania. She believes that we need to have clear legislation that trans athletes cannot be allowed to compete in single-sex sports. That law seems to have the support of the Prime Minister. He says this.
I think it's a terrific bill, and I've given her great encouragement. I mean, Claire is a champion for women's sport, and I think she's been right to raise these issues in the way that she has. Well done, Claire.
Now, Jenna, we've seen a couple of issues here. Now, that in part was happening because he was in Tasmania, Claire Chandler was there, and that's why the endorsement was offered. Jenna, we've seen, of course, the concern that there was about the New Zealand weightlifter. Well, she ended up coming last, but then we saw scenarios of a trans athlete in college sport in the United States well and truly outperforming the rest of the field. So, where do you see it?
It's really interesting. I can't believe that the Prime Minister was once again put in this position that he was today, considering all of the turmoil that engulfed the first sitting week of the parliamentary calendar this year that involved the issue when it came to trans people and now trans athletes. But I completely understand what Ms Chandler has been pursuing for the past couple of months around this bill. And look, I cannot speak on behalf of that community. I have no experience in that world whatsoever. But I can kind of see her point of view in terms of the unfair advantage that someone that is biologically considered to be female and then goes through a transition and then becomes male, or the opposite occurs, there would be some type of unfair imbalance there when it comes to athletic performance. But I kind of flip-flop on this issue, and I know that this isn't a show where you should flip-flop but on positions, but as someone that is a mediocre athlete at best, I would come last in everything anyway, so you can't blame it on my biology.
Not with those shoulder pads.
It probably would be... They're not mine. They are. I think it would definitely be a case-by-case basis and potentially a sport-by-sport basis. I don't think it could be as black and white as every trans female athlete cannot compete with people that identify as female in sport. Maybe it would come down to a code or something like that. But I'm still trying to process this issue.
Linda, the classic issue here is that obviously you want to make sure that people who transition are as comfortable as possible. But then there's the obvious thing here about the physical attributes that might come with you, which of course disadvantage women. So where do you sit here? As the arch lefty who's happy with all of it, or as the proud feminist who thinks this makes it harder for us?
Well, mainly I'm so disappointed that the Prime Minister each day is choosing yet another group of Australians to attack. Yesterday, of course, it was the New South Wales unionists who were locked out of their workplaces. Today, it's again the trans community. Australia's Sex Discrimination Act actually already allows for discrimination in competitive sport based on strength or physicality. So actually there are already provisions in the current laws of this nation to cater for this. But actually 99.9% of the sport played in Australia is not relevant for this question at all. My sons play cricket every weekend. They play with girls. We want to encourage more girls to play cricket with them and everybody else in other sporting codes. This is a minuscule issue that is
but it could be the difference between
a small group of Australians, and it will cause them harm to be yet again in the national political focus in the lead up to a federal election, and that is damaging and it is wrong.
The thing is that this particular scenario, as small as it may be the difference between a female athlete who has joined a sport, trained her entire life, and eventually gets to a position of state or national titles, and then this particular situation could be the very reason that they don't get to go to the next place. So can't we have the conversation?
And thankfully we have a Sex Discrimination Act in this nation that caters for that, so that where there are elite sports based on strength or based on physique, then there are unique circumstances where there can be discrimination is applied. It's on the basis of sex or gender identity. So there is already law in this nation to cater for this very specific, rare event.